The Walt Disney Company is on a firing fiesta. They let go the live-action man of the last decade, Sean Bailey. They terminated and walked away from the head of Walt Disney Imagineering. And now, not done quite yet, Bob Iger has said sayonara to one Mr. DeMayo, head of X-Men 97, and oh wait, 1 week before it premieres. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Pro Channel, the place where we endeavor to explain entertainment, keep you ahead of the culture curve, and we are doing that this week, 1 week ahead of time, because X-Men 97 will be debuting on Disney+, and when it does, there will be no showrunner, no fun, because Mudville has struck out. At least Bo DeMayo has. Joining us today to talk about it is LW Ghost and ND Andrew, who sometimes still is referred to in other circles as Caffeinated Wolf. We don't know who that might be. Of course, Andrew is coming off a very successful endeavor with the Rippaverse. Andrew, before we even get into this, tell the folks out there, what has just happened with Rippaverse that puts you guys in a whole new level of orbit?
Well, we just released the pre-order campaign for arguably our most anticipated book, most anticipated and hyped up character, Yaira. She's a bit of a femme fatale, anti-hero type character, and we knew that people were excited for it, but we weren't expecting it to be to such a degree to where the campaign cracked $1 million in just shy of 24 hours, beating Ice on One's record of 30.
Do you guys get tired of $1 million 24-hour campaigns? I don't even know.
Exhausting. I don't know what the heck I'm supposed to do with myself over here.
We're gonna change Eric July's name just to Midas at this point. He's saving the comic book industry.
I think you are officially no longer ragtag.
At some point, yeah, you stop being ragtag and you just
unless of course you're buying those $8 million Gucci jeans with the torn holes in them with your money.
I don't care if I have Elon Musk money. I'm not spending that much money on clothes.
Going from riches to rags, though, gentlemen. Let's get in the article. We have to go to the Hollywood Reporter. This by Boris Kidd and Aaron Couch. And folks, don't go anywhere because we're going to talk about why this is happening. Marvel shocker, according to the Hollywood Reporter. X-Men 97 creator Bo DeMayo fired weeks before the premiere. In an unusual situation on the eve of a project's debut, the writer-producer who worked on Moon Knight and Blade will no longer be promoting the show or moving forward with future seasons. This, of course, broke late yesterday. Earlier this month, Bo DeMayo was in the midst of a particularly busy time at Marvel Studios. The writer-producer was preparing for the launch of X-Men 97, the Disney Plus series he created as a continuation of the beloved 90s Fox Kids show. And may I please insert here, in which they have redesigned the characters, recast the actors who played them because they were not authentic enough, and done many other things that have folks and fans out there wondering what was left unsalvaged or left undamaged by what they were doing. DeMayo, a Marvel regular who previously wrote on live-action series Moon Knight, didn't do well, as well as early drafts of the company's delayed but still upcoming vampire thriller Blade, not going well, had completed writing duties on season 2 of X-Men 97, was lining up press and making plans to attend the show's Hollywood premiere on March 13th. Wait a minute, that's today! He was even discussing loose ideas for a third season with members of his team. But early last week, Marvel and DeMayo suddenly parted ways. His company email was deactivated, and cast and crew were informed he was no longer on the project. DeMayo's Instagram account, once a source for X-Men updates, was deleted. No reason for the firing was given. I want to read one more paragraph. We'll skip this next one, but there's one more paragraph, and then I'm going to let loose the panel on this. It was surprising turn of events on the eve of the show's March 20th debut. Splitting with writers is a normal part of business for Marvel or any studio. However, it is unusual for a top creative on a Marvel project to miss a premiere or cancel press plans last minute, even if they've been shuffled to the side. Most Marvel premieres feature multiple screenwriters walking the red carpet, some of whom had been rewritten by other writers also walking the carpet. Gentlemen, this strikes me as very similar to the woman who was just fired as the head of Walt Disney Imagineering, essentially on the eve of Splash Mountain being redone and rehashed, rehashing of Splash, into Tiana's Bayou Rainforest Cafe Adventure, which will be releasing, we think, in May. She was fired. She won't be there. Same situation here, but Here's something interesting I'd like for us to ponder in this video. Andrew, you'll remember this. Jonathan Majors was supposed to be the guy that they went to for the villain role of Marvel MCU films.
The new Thanos.
That's right. Movie after movie after movie. It took a conviction, a criminal conviction, for Marvel to separate ways. But Bo DeMayo, 1 week before the X-Men 97 debut, they've parted ways immediately, out of the blue. What in the world did this man do, or how bad is it that this could possibly be happening? Andrew, I want your take, and then we'll go to Mr. Ghost, who has significant Hollywood experience with these sorts of things.
See, this is actually incredibly interesting because, just as you said, with Majors, who was set up to be like the new guy, there was no way he was going to be as big as Thanos was, because that's when the MCU was still good and actually trying. But Majors was supposed to be the guy, right? Quality aside, charisma aside, all of that, writing aside, he was supposed to be the guy. He was the new big bad. And they axed him once they got a conviction, right? And that was a big deal.
They waited until it happened.
Yeah, they did. There was certainly a lot of press. A lot of people were firing off on social media and in all sorts of other printed media and things like that. But they waited. Funny how they wait for Majors, but they don't wait for guys like Johnny. Yeah, they waited for that. And all of a sudden we've heard nothing from this guy, aside from the fact that he's definitely, he leans very heavily to one socio-political side. Aside from that, there wasn't really much online that we know of to justify this just happening. This is very much out of the blue to me. I could have my own, gripes about the guy, but aside from him actually saying that he was given grief for wondering why the Netflix Witcher showrunners had such an issue with the canon, he was actually somebody who was, standing up for the canon, as I understand. Aside from that, really, I see nothing. I don't see how this is justified on paper. Not that I'm like in the guy's corner or anything, but I'm just mostly curious. I'm like, what exactly? I'm with you. What did you do?
So Bo DeMayo also, let's add to this. Okay, so Jonathan Majors is a straight black man. Bo DeMayo is a man of a different persuasion who has alleged in recent interviews that he was essentially hired on as the showrunner for X-Men 97 based on the idea that he would write this with his life experiences as a gay black man. Knowing the Walt Disney Company and knowing how they like to present themselves, Lou, I think they would rather let in 1,000 people to Disneyland for free and pet the hippos on Jungle Cruise ride in their swimming trunks and bikinis than to fire this man of this type of persuasion, of these alphabet categories, a week before his big premiere. So, Lou, as someone with Hollywood experience, what in the world is your best guess on how bad this must be?
Well, it's got to be pretty damn bad. And if we are being charitable to Disney, comparing it to what somebody called this a Kang variant, comparing it, maybe they learned their lesson last time and said, we waited too long, let's get in front of it. But it's got to be something pretty danged bad. I saw somebody on, I guess it was on Reddit, I was looking around on this, and he said either it's something really horrible or they fired him because he made Rogue's butt flat.
I doubt that's the reason.
I don't think it's the latter.
That's my single biggest gripe so far with this 97 show. But, how dare you?
I will point out, and again, I'm not judging anybody for who they are and what they do. I really am not. This guy had an OnlyFans page. Now, granted, a free and non-explicit one, but I mean, his identity as a very much out a gay man was not in question by anybody. And as somebody said, he was perhaps hired for that reason. So it's one thing.
Didn't hurt his chances.
Well, but it's one thing to be that and to espouse that and to say all the things he said about changing these characters. It's another thing if you act on it in a way that might be considered over the top or even, who knows, criminal. I have no idea. But the fact that this premiere is like now, And as we said before, when you were talking about the various writers who'd basically been fired in favor of each other, all walking the red carpet, before the carpet, they walked the plank. This has got to be something that's about to really break in a big way, or they wouldn't have had to be this quick about it. This
had to be the most damning thing possible.
To make a point off of that, here's another paragraph out of this Hollywood Reporter article. His silence on social media, talking about just in the past 24 hours, has been acute as he was a prolific poster sharing X-Men tidbits, as well as shirtless pictures of himself at the gym. For a time, he also ran a non-explicit OnlyFans account, all of which inspired the LGBTQ publication Out to declare him the sexy gay Marvel writer and showrunner to No. Apparently, Disney no longer agrees with that. But Lou, with your experience in Hollywood, you and I were talking before we began this recording about possibilities of why they might have let him go. And one of the things that I said was that there was the possibility that the quality of the show is just so terrible that they don't even want to celebrate it. They don't want to be attached to him. And you said that is a very unlikely scenario. Can you walk us through why that's so unlikely in comparison?
Because they've got an investment in the show. And because they theoretically, under Iger's new and improved reinvigoration plan, have been supervising it all the way along. So if it was really bad, it would have been really bad. By the way, somebody, and I don't know, I haven't followed this as closely as you guys do. Somebody said the fact that this story revealed that they have 2 seasons in the book, in the thing, not just one, was news. That as far as anybody knew, there was only 1 so far, and they were working on the second. Well, if you've got 2 whole seasons of this thing out there, and by the way, unlike other projects we've talked about before that have been shifted on the books from the Disney Plus books to feature, this is Disney Plus. And Disney Plus cannot afford another flopperoonie. And if people reject it, look, it's one thing to say, well, I was hoping for that show, but it wasn't that great. Maybe some people said that about Ahsoka, for example, or other shows. But it's another thing to say, not only is it awful, but it was by this terrible guy who did this terrible thing. And by God, I'm quitting and never coming back. And by the way, you can keep your theme parks too. This has got to be a scandal.
Damage control.
It's got to be a scandal on such a level that it would reflect on the entire corporation in an extremely financially negative way, especially right now as the proxy fight impugns. This has got to be enormous. It's got to be enormous. And when you asked about old Hollywood, they would have paid everybody off and you never would have heard about it, period.
Right. But social media and phones have made that more difficult.
Exactly.
We are in speculation territory. I want to make that clear. But one thing you were talking about, LW Ghost, when you were talking about Disney Plus, one thing that came to mind is, it took everything up until the conviction to get Marvel to admit they had a problem with Jonathan Majors. But those were coming out of the movie funds for Disney. Disney with investors, they are determined that they have to show at least a penny of profit in one single quarter by the end of this year, because that's what they've promised investors. If they miss it, it's going to damage the stock gravely. If they didn't want to have to spend on a second season, might have made that decision much easier to kick him out and say, you know what, no second season. We're not going to be working on that this year. I'm not suggesting that is what happened, but I just find it interesting how quickly they were ready to jump.
But
I want to toss
if they did that, they would not announce it, because that would be admitting the first season as a stinker before it even showed.
Right. And it's insulting.
Right.
So
they have to put on the face of, it's really, really great, but we're going a different direction, or it's great, but we told the story and we're done, or something like that. They can't just walk away from it before it's out there, or else they're admitting it stinks.
Right. So, Andrew, I want to give you the final word on this. With your perspective on superheroes and comic books and all of this, one of the things that we've said repeatedly when it comes to the X-Men is Disney spent far too much money on acquiring the rights to the X-Men by buying Fox. And Disney has damaged Marvel far too much in terms of now the MCU, right? So we know that Deadpool and Wolverine will do very well, we believe. But after that, there's not much out there, and that's why they may have to resort to pairing Hugh Jackman as Wolverine and Tom Holland as Spider-Man for an Avengers film, because that's all they have. They haven't developed a roster of exciting characters after those last Avengers are gone. So we've said, Andrew, that you had to stick the landing with the X-Men. And part of this X-Men 97 thing that we've been watching and we've been talking about has been, why are you taking risks? You must stick the landing, because the X-Men are good for 2 decades of content and the redemption and revivification of their most lucrative franchise on cinema screens, which is Marvel. Here we have, right out of the get-go, we're just in the animated show to reinvigorate interest in the X-Men franchise. And already, it's chaos again. It's another firing of someone who should be a major name at Disney. So, Andrew, how important are the X-Men to Marvel having a shot at bringing back the MCU to the level it was?
The X-Men are the linchpin. They're everything right now because they have nothing else. Like you said, they're doing Deadpool and Wolverine. Okay, cool. But they have nothing else after that in terms of the big screen. So
and Wolverine is X-Men, for God's sake. So you're half an X-Man there. There you go.
Exactly. And I'm gonna piggyback off and expound on what you said, Pro. It wasn't just that they spent too much money to acquire it. They spent too much money to acquire it and then did nothing with it.
Yeah.
For years.
Yeah.
They just sat on the X-Men and the Fantastic Four for years. And the second that they acquired that, I don't care how far along in production, the Marvels, Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, any of this other crap was, you sideline all of that and it's all hands on deck on the things that are going to almost be guaranteed to bring back viewers. And they slept on that. And that was a huge mistake of theirs. They have to stick the landing with the X-Men. I think that it is possible that this show is underwhelming. I'm not necessarily of the mind that it's going to be just abysmally bad. But I think it's going to be underwhelming. I've seen enough about it to be able to make that judgment with
right. I was confused why they didn't go for something bigger when I saw the layout of the episodes and the stories they had. I didn't understand.
And the issue of is it good or not is 2 different issues. One is it good on its own? 2 is it good that the people who loved the original show will like this too? Because
like
we have
me,
seen
who grew up with that show as my religion.
Exactly. We've seen so many instances of great older IP, to use a catch-all term that doesn't really say it, being bought, being said, oh, we're going to bring in all the old fans. It's got an automatic audience. And then you do everything you can to PO that audience. It's a level of blindness or contempt or outright just dumbness that happens over and over and again with these things. So even if it was really good for what it is, it carries with it the potential and the baggage of what came before.
That's right. Folks, remember, we're not here to be just utterly negative about Disney nonstop. But when somebody is suddenly fired, who the show is coming out next week, we take notice. And when there are signs that the show is not going to be as good as we would like for it to be, well, we're going to talk about it. And Disney, give us some wins. We'll talk about that too, but you got to give us some wins to talk about.
Somebody I saw on Reddit said this: the past 12 months have been Kevin Feige's annus horribilis. Jonathan Majors, Ant-Man and the Marvels flopping, bombing, Secret Invasion, another disaster, most MCU shows and films getting delayed, Cap 4 getting 5 months of reshoots, Daredevil being scrapped and restarted, Disney having an awful year, and Iger admitting that Marvel's strategy is faulty. And now this.
Yeah.
That's one hell of a cavalcade.
They do not have a winning record right now.
Oh, boy.
The past year for Kevin Feige has been like watching Michael Jordan suddenly unable to shoot a free throw. This is it's like watching him airball with granny shots, and you just don't understand how this can be the same person. Kevin Feige, whether it was him, he that was the engine of success, or whether it was someone else, he still, through osmosis, should have learned how to do better than what we're watching. Marvel was the most successful franchise in cinematic history. In this past year, in 2023, it now holds probably We'll figure it out about in about a month. We'll be able to look at tax documents and figure this out. But either Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny or The Marvels is going to be the biggest flop in the history of cinema. So how's that for a 180? All right, folks.
Regardless of how exactly those numbers turn out, bro.
All right, folks, that is a wrap for us today. We hope you enjoyed. If you did so, click the like button, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms, hit the notification bell, and drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts about X-Men 97, and keep it clean. I know you want to guess and speculate as to what
DeMayo.
happened. That's right, please.
Somebody had to
DeMayo's
say
sake. That's right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you very soon. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, buy more Ripaverse, and keep having fun.
Listen up, my brothers and sisters. You've been listening to Phils and those with an agenda to destroy your brain cells for far too long. It's time to change your way of doing things. Hold up. TPP is the place to be. Covering the news so honestly. It's a team that's cool and tried and true. Ahead of the culture curve, they're trying to keep you. Jonas and Pro, they run the show, and they dragged in the bearded culture casino. You got Valiant and Lord and Force of Light. Wonderful people, yeah, they're alright. They got weird bringing in people like Floral, but made no mistake with Lorena Creole. Amelia and John, stuttering guitarist. Martin and Tawny and someone called CMS. Fat Steven makes a bunch of other graphics. Did I mention a partnership with Bending in the comics? Fat Sky is a guy and Doc Matt does the web stuff. There's probably some people I missed. I hope they're not telling you the news that should be fun. With accurate info that's not been spun. You can figure it out as you will see. The TPP is the place to be.
Yeah, Wilton. That was actually pretty good, or white. But I think you might have forgotten Vash.
Well, he lost all his friends. But it was implied.